What if I told you that a rising African nation just filed a lawsuit against one of the most respected European governments at the International Court of Justice, and it's shaking the foundations of international law? What if I told you that a currency born from exile is now being sprayed like confetti at weddings in Nigeria, while a global freedom movement is being silenced not by war, but by legal loopholes, frozen bank accounts, and diplomatic backdoors? Today, we are not just covering another news story. We are witnessing a modern David versus Goliath, where the United States of Biafra is challenging Finland, demanding justice for the arrest and alleged torture of peaceful citizens, and turning Simon Nyoku Ekpa's courtroom into a stage for a historic defense of self-determination. But that's just the beginning. There's crypto crackdowns, hacked governors, donkey genitals smuggled across Nigerian highways, and even a made-in-Nigeria fire truck sparking hope. This isn't just a story about politics. It's about dignity, betrayal, survival, and the unstoppable rise of a people long silenced. Why is the Finnish government cracking under pressure? And why is Nigeria so afraid of a wedding spray? Stay with us. You won't believe what's happening next. The United States of Biafra, USB government, is preparing to sue the Finnish government and police at the International Court of Justice, ICJ, over the alleged unlawful detention and inhumane treatment of 4 Biafran nationals, including threats against peaceful Biafran gatherings. The Finnish judiciary is reportedly struggling with 6 major legal and diplomatic challenges in prosecuting Simon Ekpa, including issues of free speech, jurisdiction, diplomatic pressure from Nigeria, public opinion, lack of legal precedent, and national security concerns. The official USB currency called Ejema Ajama was seen being openly used and sprayed at a party in Anambra State, signaling that the Biafran movement's symbolic economic system is already being embraced in some southeastern regions. The Nigerian Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, announced a crackdown on crypto wallets, alleging corrupt politicians are laundering money through digital currencies. Innocent users may be targeted as scapegoats. Nigerian customs intercepted a container full of donkey genitals on Kaduna-Abuja Expressway, raising concerns about illegal wildlife trafficking. The origin, intended recipient, and purpose of the shipment remain unclear. Governor Ahmadu Umaru Fintiri's Twitter page was hijacked by unknown hackers and used to promote cryptocurrency scams, raising questions about his ability to manage state-level security while failing to protect his social media. A faction of Nigeria's Labour Party declared that choosing Peter Obi as their 2023 presidential candidate was a political mistake, despite him being the key figure who brought national relevance to the party. Inhumane Vehicle Manufacturing, IVM, launched fire trucks built with 70% Nigerian parts. The vehicles, highly rated in Africa, have already been ordered by the Nigerian federal government, marking a milestone in local industrialization. During his court session in Finland, Simon Ekpa gave an articulate and detailed response about the structure and operations of the Biafran Republic Government in Exile, BRGIE, surprising the Finnish judiciary with the depth and clarity of his explanation. In the heart of the summer of the year 2025, a storm was quietly building between the peaceful Republic of Finland in northern Europe and the bold and persistent government of the United States of Biafra in exile. This was not just a diplomatic standoff or another minor skirmish of political ideologies. This was a full-blown legal confrontation that carried the weight of historical trauma, present injustice, and the fierce desire for dignity and recognition. The situation escalated to a boiling point when the United States of Biafra, also known as the USB government in exile, announced its intention to drag the Finnish police and government before the International Court of Justice, commonly known as the ICJ. The accusations were serious, far-reaching, and impossible to ignore. They centered around allegations of unlawful detention, inhumane treatment of Biafran nationals, and systematic threats against peaceful gatherings of Biafrans living in Finland. This development marked a turning point in what had been, until now, a relatively quiet but deeply painful battle between Biafran self-determination activists and foreign governments acting, either willingly or reluctantly, under pressure from the Federal Republic of Nigeria. At the center of this conflict was a man named Simon Nyoku Ekpa, a former athlete, legal scholar, and now the vocal and symbolic leader of the Biafran Republic government in exile. He had become a household name not only among Biafrans across southeastern Nigeria, but also among diaspora communities in Europe, North America, and parts of Asia. Simon Nyoku Ekpa's legal troubles in Finland had been brewing for several months, beginning with his sudden arrest in late November of the year 2024 by Finnish authorities. That arrest shocked many people, not only because it was carried out under mysterious circumstances, but because it was followed by a long and confusing silence. No formal charges were immediately filed. His digital devices were seized, his finances were frozen, and Biafran communities in Finland and across the world watched in horror as one of their most influential figures was rendered powerless overnight. The most troubling part of the entire situation, and the part that prompted the United States of Biafra government to finally go to court, was not only the arrest of Simon Nyoku Ekpa, but the detainment of 4 other Biafran nationals in Finland. These individuals had done nothing but participate in peaceful activities, meetings, prayer vigils, cultural celebrations, none of which posed any security threat to Finland. Yet they were surveilled, harassed, and reportedly subjected to threats by elements within the Finnish law enforcement system. This pattern of behavior, Biafran officials argued, amounted to institutional discrimination and a clear violation of international human rights. The bigger problem began to emerge once one looked deeper. Why was the Finnish government behaving this way? Was it truly about security? Or was something else at play? Upon closer inspection, the situation revealed 6 complex and overlapping problems facing the Finnish judiciary. These problems were not only legal in nature but diplomatic, political, social, and moral. First, there was the issue of free speech. Simon Nyoku Ekpa had never led an army or committed acts of physical violence. His power lay in his voice, his words, his ability to mobilize people across the globe through social media, press releases, and virtual town halls. Criminalizing such speech posed a dangerous precedent in a country like Finland, known for its high standards of freedom and democracy. Second, there was the issue of jurisdiction. Simon Nyoku Ekpa's political movement had nothing to do with Finnish domestic politics. He was a political activist representing a foreign, stateless nation. Could Finnish courts, in good conscience, prosecute a man for actions that took place almost entirely outside their national borders? The third challenge came in the form of diplomatic pressure. Behind the scenes, the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Nigeria was reportedly pushing hard for Simon Nyoku Ekpa to be silenced, extradited, or at least neutralized. Such pressure, according to many observers, had quietly influenced Finnish policy decisions. Fourth, the Finnish courts were now struggling with rising public opinion. Protests, petitions, and international letters had begun to pour in from Biafrans, human rights lawyers, and even concerned citizens of Finland who saw the arrest as unjust. The fifth problem was that of legal precedent. Never before had the Finnish judiciary dealt with a case like this, involving a separatist leader, foreign diplomatic pressure, and global human rights implications. And finally, there was the looming concern of national security. The Finnish government feared that failing to control Symbolic Ekpa's growing influence might attract unwanted attention or radical actions within their own borders. It was this perfect storm of problems that prompted the United States of Biafra government to say enough is enough. On July 12, 2025, in a carefully prepared press statement broadcast to Biafrans all over the world, the USB government declared that they were officially filing a lawsuit against the Finnish government and police at the International Court of Justice. The complaint was clear. They alleged human rights violations, unlawful detainment, the freezing of personal and organizational assets without due process, and a campaign of intimidation targeting peaceful Biafran communities in Finland. For the USB government, this was not just about Symbolic Ekpa or the 4 other detained Biafrans. This was about dignity, justice, and the right to exist freely and peacefully. While this legal battle was unfolding in Europe, something strange and symbolic was taking place in Anambra State, Nigeria. At a wedding celebration attended by hundreds of Biafrans, the new currency of the Biafran Republic government in exile, called Ejema Ajama, was openly used and sprayed on the couple. Videos of the event quickly went viral. It was not only a bold cultural statement, but a political one. It signaled that, for many Biafrans, the dream of independence was not dead. The symbolic economic system of the Biafran Republic was already being embraced and slowly becoming a part of daily life in southeastern Nigeria. This singular moment sent chills through the corridors of power in Abuja. The Nigerian government, already struggling with inflation, insecurity, and political unrest, now faced a more organized and emotionally charged movement than ever before. In a move seen by many as an act of desperation, the Nigerian Economic and Financial Crimes Commission announced a sudden crackdown on cryptocurrency wallets. According to their statement, corrupt politicians were using digital currencies to launder money. But critics pointed out a darker side. Innocent users, especially young entrepreneurs, tech enthusiasts, and diaspora remittance receivers, were being caught in the dragnet. Many believed this was part of a broader effort to weaken the financial base of the Biafran movement and other dissenting voices by cutting off their access to decentralized finance. Things took an even stranger turn when Nigerian customs agents intercepted a shipping container on the Kaduna-Abuja expressway. Inside, to everyone's horror, they discovered hundreds of preserved donkey genitals. The shipment, believed to be part of an illegal wildlife trafficking operation, raised serious questions. Where was it headed? Who ordered it? And why? The implications of such a find go far beyond the grotesque. It showed just how deep corruption and illegal trade had become in the country, where strange and disturbing businesses thrived under the protection of powerful, unseen hands. Amid all these chaotic events, another scandal was brewing. Governor Ahmadu Umaru Fintiri of Adamawa State had his official Twitter page hacked. The hackers quickly turned the page into a cryptocurrency scam hub, posting links, fake giveaways, and bogus investment opportunities. While the incident was quickly contained, it raised a serious question. If a sitting governor could not secure his social media accounts, how could he guarantee the safety and digital infrastructure of his entire state? Trust in leadership, already shaken, took another hit. Even the political parties were not immune to the storm. A faction of Nigeria's Labour Party, which had once stood proudly behind former presidential candidate Peter Gregory Obi, released a public statement declaring that selecting him as their flag-bearer for the 2023 elections was a mistake. This came as a shock to many. Peter Gregory Obi had almost single-handedly elevated the Labour Party to national prominence. But political loyalty in Nigeria is fragile. What this statement revealed was a party fractured by internal disagreements, egos, and possibly strategic betrayals. Yet, in the midst of the darkness, there was also light. Innocent Vehicle Manufacturing, also known as IVM, launched a new fleet of fire trucks built with 70% locally sourced Nigerian parts. This achievement marked a milestone in the nation's industrial journey. Not only had the Nigerian federal government already placed orders, but other African countries began showing interest. For a moment, it felt like a dream worth holding on to. A made-in-Nigeria vehicle built by Nigerians for Nigerians. It reminded everyone that with the right vision, hard work, and integrity, national transformation was possible. And then came the most unexpected twist of all. During his latest court session in Finland, Simon Nyoku Ekpa took the stand. What followed was a moment that observers described as both shocking and inspiring. In calm, deliberate and articulate speech, Simon Nyoku Ekpa explained the entire structure and operations of the Biafran Republic government in exile. He outlined their constitution, their departments, their accountability mechanisms, and their vision for peace, development, and self-reliance. Finnish judges and legal experts reportedly sat in stunned silence, unable to believe the level of organization and foresight the movement had achieved. The consequences of all these events are still unfolding. The lawsuit against the Finnish government could take months, possibly years, but its symbolic power is already being felt. For the first time, Biafrans are not just protesting, they are suing. They are using the very tools of international law to fight back. It's a powerful message that the fight for Biafra is no longer just in the forests of southeastern Nigeria or in the hearts of the oppressed, but in the courtrooms of The Hague and the pages of human rights journals. So, are there solutions to all these problems? Yes, but they are not easy. Finland could choose to release the detained Biafrans and enter diplomatic talks with the USB government. Nigeria could embrace political reform, respect the rights of self-determination, and address the roots of discontent in the southeast. The global community could step in, not with bombs or sanctions, but with honest mediation, development aid, and respect for African voices. But how far are we from such solutions? Truthfully, still a long way. Trust is broken. The wounds of war, marginalization, and betrayal run deep. But every lawsuit filed, every voice raised, every fire truck built in Newi, every vote cast, and every new currency note sprayed at a wedding brings us one step closer. What we are witnessing is not just the news. It is history being written in real time. The courtroom speech of Simon Nyoku Ekpa did not just end with legal definitions and structural descriptions. It became a declaration, calm, confident, and meticulously articulated about what the Biafran Republic government in exile represented. It was not an underground militia or a terror organization. It was a structured political movement born out of the unhealed wounds of the Nigerian Biafran Civil War of 1967. What Finland and the international community had failed to understand was that Simon Nyoku Ekpa and his allies were not trying to wage war. They were trying to prevent it through organization, representation, and international legal engagement. His testimony shocked many people in that Finnish courtroom. For the first time, even his skeptics within Europe and Africa began to see the man behind the media portrayals. Back in Nigeria, however, reactions were mixed. The Nigerian government remained silent on Simon Ekpa's testimony. The silence was telling. It was the type of silence that hinted at internal panic. For decades, the Nigerian federal system had depended on fragmented resistance movements, but this was different. The Biafran Republic government in exile was not fragmented. It was structured, intentional, and resilient. Meanwhile, Biafran activists across the diaspora began mobilizing legal experts and international human rights defenders. A powerful team of lawyers from Canada, the United Kingdom, South Africa, the Netherlands, and even Japan began organizing pro bono support for the USB's case at the International Court of Justice. The legal filing was being reviewed by multiple international agencies, and the Finnish police were now in the uncomfortable position of defending their conduct in a global spotlight they were never prepared for. The testimonies of the 4 other detained Biafrans were equally disturbing. One of them, a 28-year-old medical student, recounted how Finnish police officers raided his apartment, questioned him for hours about his association with Simon Ekpa, and froze his scholarship fund. Another, a 42-year-old woman, said her home was searched while her children were sleeping. She had been attending weekly Biafran cultural gatherings, but nothing illegal had ever taken place. Yet she was branded a threat. These accounts painted a troubling picture of rising profiling and state-sponsored paranoia. As this case grew in international attention, Finland's reputation as a neutral, law-abiding democracy began to take a hit. Public trust within its immigrant communities, especially the African diaspora, began to erode. The narrative was now shifting. Was Finland truly acting independently, or had it become a proxy enforcer for Nigerian diplomatic interests? Diplomatic cables leaked in late June suggested that Nigerian government officials, particularly from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, had held multiple quiet meetings with Finnish diplomats in Abuja. The content of these meetings remained undisclosed, but the timing corresponded closely with the raids, arrests, and freezing of digital assets tied to Biafran figures in Finland. Further complicating matters was the role of international surveillance programs. It was revealed through investigative journalism that a European Union intelligence sharing system had flagged keywords related to Biafra as potential destabilization codes. This classification, while not legally binding, meant that any digital communication using terms like Biafra, Simon Ekpa, or USB government was subject to heightened scrutiny in countries across Europe. This had serious implications for freedom of speech and the digital rights of activists worldwide. Within Nigeria, tensions were also rising. The EFCC's ongoing cryptocurrency crackdown seemed to be less about corruption and more about control. In Lagos, several fintech companies were raided and their operations suspended. In Abuja, an entire online trading platform run by young entrepreneurs from Enugu was shut down after being labeled a security risk. No evidence of wrongdoing was presented. What had become clear to many was that the Nigerian government feared the power of digital finance. The ejema, the Biafran symbolic currency, while not yet legally tender, was beginning to challenge the very idea of Nigerian economic unity. The wedding in Anambra State, where ejema was used, became more than a private celebration. It became a declaration of identity. For decades, Biafrans had feared to publicly express their hope for independence. But this event was different, Videos showed people laughing, dancing, and boldly throwing the symbolic currency into the air as if they were saying, "We exist, we are building our future." It was a powerful moment, and it frightened the establishment. Reacting to this, Nigerian intelligence reportedly dispatched special agents to monitor cultural and religious events in southeastern Nigeria. Churches, town halls, and traditional gatherings were suddenly under surveillance. Banners with images of Biafran symbols were quietly taken down by government agents. The use of certain colors, red, black, and green, was discouraged in public schools. The government feared symbolism. They feared what it could ignite. Outside of Biafra and Nigeria, reactions began to emerge in subtle but significant ways. Members of the European Parliament began drafting questions about Finland's role in suppressing African voices. Human rights organizations in Geneva, Washington, D.C., and Berlin began issuing preliminary reports. One such report from the Global Civil Liberties Watch described Finland's actions as an unfortunate departure from Nordic principles of fairness and humanitarian law. Simultaneously, tensions within Nigeria's political parties intensified. The statement by the Labour Party faction that Peter Obi's presidential candidacy was a mistake reopened old wounds. The youth who had rallied behind Peter Obi during the 2023 election, many of whom identified with the Biafran cause, felt betrayed. This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.